Okay. Okay,
Lights,
guys,
camera, fractions.
I'm actually videotaping this. I didn't tell you guys this, but I videotape the lessons and I put them up on YouTube so that they can see them if they need to, if they're working on their homework. So we're going to talk about, we sort of talked about this last week on Friday. Okay, we talked about this last week on Friday, but I didn't say what it was called. But I was talking about a part of the quadratic equation. What is the part of the the quadratic formula? What's the part of the formula that is not in the axis of symmetry formula? What's axis symmetry formula again?
X equals negative b over 2a.
Negative b over 2a. What is the part that is in the quadratic formula that is not in the axis symmetry?
C.
Everything C?
All the square root stuff, right?
And C.
The confusing part.
Negative b
That's
over...
all, yeah, right. So it's this, right? It's this. This plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is called the discriminant.
Whoa.
Technically, not the square root sign. Technically, it's just b squared minus 4ac. They call that discriminant. I personally like to keep the square root sign there because it tells me why this all works, right? So that is it's a very powerful thing to have that. And you notice, like last week, I talked about when you're doing the quadratic equation to figure out the discriminant first, right? You guys remember that?
Yes.
I did that whole lecture. I showed you how it's faster to do the discriminant first and then enter it into your quadratic equation, right? Well, the discriminant, there's two reasons for doing that. Number one, it's faster and easier. And number two, it actually tells you something, right? There are three possibilities for what goes underneath this square root sign. Three possibilities. The three possibilities are this. Okay, the first one is what's underneath the square root sign is a positive number. So every positive number has a square root, right? It may go on forever if you turn it into a decimal, but it's still every positive number has a square root. So with a discriminant, remember how it's plus or minus? Yes? So when you've got x equals negative b plus or minus something that's positive, it has a square root, right? Therefore, you're going to add that number, right? You're going to add that number to this, and then also you're going to subtract it from that. You're going to have how many answers? 2, right? I've got a positive number here, so I'm going to add it to this negative b, and I'm also going to subtract it from the negative b. So I'll have 2 answers. You get me? Does that make sense? So when the number underneath the square root sign, in other words, when the discriminant is positive, there are always going to be 2 solutions. That make sense? You guys get that?
Yes.
So, kind of.
Well, like, oh yeah, because it's, oh yeah.
But see what I mean? It's because of in the formula, you've got a plus or minus, right? Right? And the plus or minus means you're going to add or subtract it. So if you have something that does have a square root, then you're going to add it and you're going to subtract it. You're going to have 2 answers.
Wow.
Right? Now what if, another possibility is if you had 0 underneath the square root sign. What's the square root of 0? 0. So, okay, let's look at this now. Here's the formula, plus or minus 0. How many answers am I going to get? Why 1?
Because 0 is both positive and negative.
Well, it's not. It's just 0.
It's just 0. So you basically have you're right, Indira. You have negative b over 2a plus nothing or minus nothing. Is that going to change anything? So you're just going to have 1 answer. You see what I'm saying?
Whoa.
Does that make sense? Do you get that? Right? I'm not adding anything or subtracting anything from it. So it's just negative b over 2a. That's it. Does that make sense? When the discriminant is 0. Okay. The third possibility is the discriminant is negative. So Jax, what would that mean? A negative number under the square root sign.
Math error.
What?
Oh, wait.
No solution.
So no solution. Absolutely no solution.
No solution, not
Right?
Math error is more fun to say.
No, no
This
solution
one-
is better.
Math error.
This one I forgot to write down,
It's a
but there's
math
one
error.
solution.
One solo.
Right? So
Oh yeah.
So let's try a few. Let's just try a few. 2x squared plus 6x plus 5. 2x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. All right? So this is our first one. All right, all I want to do first is the discriminant, and I'm just being asked to find how many solutions there are. Does that make sense? This is very common. You won't be asked to find the zeros. They'll just say, find the number of solutions. It's kind of a weird question because, you know, you'd think that they'd want more than that, but sometimes that's all they want to know. How many answers are there? They don't want to know what the answers are, they just want to know how many. Okay? And so immediately I go straight to my discriminant because that will tell me how many answers there are. If it's positive, there's 2 answers. If it's 0, it's 1 answer, and if it's negative, it is going to be no answers, right? Basically, so I've got the square root of b squared minus 4ac, so it's going to be the square root of 6 squared, 36, minus 4 times a times c. So, okay, so 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 5 is 40. Ah, square root of 36 minus 40. Do I have to go any further? No, don't I know right now? I don't even have to figure out what is 36 minus 40. I don't have to. Why? It's going to be negative, right? So immediately I know what? How many solutions will this have? 0 solutions. No solutions. Exactly. Awesome.
Don't erase.
Sorry.
There.
Okay, so that was our first one. Let's try another one. I'll do it right here. Okay, so next one.
Okay, now you can erase.
X squared minus 7.
Wait, no.
Can I? Okay. It's easier if I just do it up here. 2. So if I have x squared minus 7 equals 0. X squared minus 7 equals 0. All right. How do I deal with this one?
Add 0. X plus 0 minus 7 equals 0.
How to add what again? Say it again.
X squared plus 0 minus 7 equals 0.
0x, right?
0, yeah, that.
Right, so x squared plus 0x minus 7 equals 0. So my a is equal to 1, my b is equal to 0, and my c is equal to negative 7, right? So I'm going to try my discriminant again. So it's the square root of 0 squared, which is nothing, right? So I don't need to write it. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 7. Negative times negative
Positive.
is positive. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 7 is
Positive 28.
positive 28.
Hey.
Positive 28. Any positive number has a square root, right? So how many solutions are there?
2 solos.
There are 2 solutions,
X
right?
equals negative 28 or X equals positive 28.
Right, exactly. There's 2 solutions, and it's mostly because of this. It's this plus or minus sign, right? Right? That's why. That's why there's 2 solutions, because there is a square root of 28, right? And we're adding it and subtracting it. Yes.
So basically, this is just doing the process, but in
Yes. And so this is called the discriminant, and you have to learn that term because
discrimination theory.
it is. It's like, well, in a way, it's like discriminating between the number of solutions. Does that make sense?
That's such a horrible thing.
I know. It's terrible,
That's
right?
so
Yes.
mean.
So, crap, I forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind.
Okay.
Gary, these have a
I'll tell you
number.
when I remember.
Interrupt when you remember. Yes.
Can we call it the segregant? Because it's like segregation and discrimination, and it's like kind of the same thing. Can we call it the segregant?
But
You
Gary,
can
do
call
you
it
realize
anything
these
you
numbers
want.
also have a right to be part of a problem? You're taking away their right to be part of a problem.
Yeah,
Well,
they have number rights.
all right.
We have
Moving right along.
Really?
number.
Negative
do it.
five.
Yes,
Moving
of
on.
course, Jackson.
Are you sure about
What
that?
did I say to you?
Okay, he's running for the next question.
He said Jack.
Jack.
Because I said
Okay,
Jack.
guys. Okay, we still got a video going here. So again, I'm going to do my b squared minus 4ac. I notice that my b is negative 12. What's negative 12 times negative 12? 144. Minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 9. All right.
Gary, slow down.
What?
Slow down real
Okay,
quick.
slow down. I'll go
Thank
slow.
you.
You go like pretty fast, just gonna be honest.
Like,
Yeah,
you're
I
like Sonic the
apologize. I
Hedgehog,
know.
man.
Let's go.
Gotta go Sanic.
I apologize.
Never say that again.
So,
I am.
Never say that again.
Oh, Gary, by the way,
so
this
I've
is
just
so
plugged,
easy.
I've just plugged this stuff in, okay? I've just plugged this stuff in. So I'm going to keep going. 144 minus 4 times 4 is 16, right? 16 times 9. Does anybody have a calculator?
No.
Yes.
Yes, he does.
16 times 9.
Oh, turn on.
Other than I mean, this is saying.
Hey, Gary.
Hang on. No.
Oh,
144.
144.
What is it?
144. Zero.
Okay,
Zero,
so we've got
It's right,
144 minus, you saying 144?
Basically.
Which is 0, right?
I did that.
So
problem
we've
on
got the square root of 0. So how many solutions will I have?
1.
one.
1, because I'm adding and subtracting the same thing, which is nothing, right?
I
Okay.
did that problem on paper as fast as he typed it on the calculator. That's
All right. So,
I can't do that. So you have to.
so that's basically all it is. It's really quite simple, right? It's very, very simple. And you don't even have to memorize it. To me, you're right. You know, it's like some people spend all this time, okay, I got to remember, if it's positive, there's 2 solutions, and if it's negative, there's no solution. If there's 0, how many solutions is it? 1, I think, right? They memorize it. Why memorize it? It's so obvious, right? If it's plus or minus a positive number, it's going to be 2 answers. If it's plus or minus nothing, it's only going to be 1 answer. If it's plus or minus a negative, a radical, I mean, it's a radical with a negative, you can't have a solution, right? So you don't even have to memorize it. It's obvious. Does it make sense?
Yes.
You get that? So, anyways, that's it. I think that's the lecture today. That's all I wanted to go over.
Damn, that's a long one.